All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict show. I'm your host, Dr. David Waralu. So, I found it very interesting to address this topic, to give you a readout, a brief analysis, if you will, about it so you can put things in perspective. But before I start, let me just, in case there are some of the viewers here who maybe this is your first time, let me just introduce myself as to what qualifies me to talk about this topic. So I'm a former international security and geopolitical analyst. I still do some analysis as of today. I'm a former military. I've been around in over 25 countries, when I was dealing with the international security matters. So I happen to be very familiar with this topic because I wrote a few books in which I addressed the topic of Russia and so forth. And this is the recent book that I just published regarding this topic, which I will be addressing some of the content of it pertaining to what I'm going to be talking about today. I also wrote this book here about Saudi Arabia. Also very important to know the dynamics of that one. And also wrote a book about the Iran nuclear deal and so forth. But anyway, here is what I want to talk to you about. And by the way, if you have not subscribed yet, please do so right now. So show your support, and I truly appreciate it. So let's get on it right away here, because there's a lot of stuff to cover. So what I'm going to be providing you guys is just a brief readout, a brief analysis, shall we say. And I intend to do an in-depth analysis on locals.com. That's usually what I do, my other in-depth analysis. As a matter of fact, I did a recording on locals yesterday for about almost an hour. Yes, almost an hour. And I detailed exactly the recent, which is still ongoing today, the naval exercises between Russia, China, and Iran, and what it means, not only from a regional, but also a global security aspect and geopolitical one. So anyway, let's get on talking about the topic for today. And the topic of today that I feel personally you need to know about, because the mainstream media is not going to disclose the detail of it, it has to do with the decision of the Polish President Andrzej Duda, who decided that despite U.S. boycott of the China's Olympic, which is about to start in February 4th, if I'm not mistaken, he decided he's going to attend the events and confirmed that he will be meeting with President Xi when he is over there. So, and this is despite the U.S. boycotts to protest China over these human rights issues and so forth. Yeah, we all know the other four countries that joined the U.S. Because they have no say into the matter. That's the reality. It's Australia, UK, Canada, and Japan. So, without going into detail, you all know what they share in common. So, what's interesting in the case of Poland is that, I am not surprised. And I say this truly based on a conviction. Why am I not surprised? Well, I'm not surprised, rather, not only because Poland is a sovereign state, of course, but I'm also not surprised because of the ongoing tensions that's going on right now between the US and Russia over Ukraine. Because Poland will be burned if there is a military conflict. And I'm going to get into that after I provide some other insights regarding this. So the idea of Poland, being a nation, a sovereign state, of course, it can decide its own decisions, and how it wants to deal with other countries, including China, So while Poland is an ally of the US, Poland also has a favorable and a friendly relationship with China. And they don't want to jeopardize that, It's because, here's the thing. Here is again what is not being reported in the mainstream media. Relationship between Poland and the United States have worsened under the current administration. So to Poland, they are saying it is no longer in our interest to continue criticizing China simply to please you, the US. That's basically where they are getting at. So, and the interesting aspects of that is that there is also strategic aspects to it. And this is where the analysis come in. If I am to put my analyst hat, this is where it's come in. Here's the thing. During a meeting in China, that was about a meeting between a 17 plus summit that took place between some central European countries and China. The European countries only sent the lower delegation, in other words, not the head of states. It was only Poland that showed up, which means the president at the president's level, not at a foreign minister, for example. So during this 17+1 summit with China, other Central European countries or nations sent lower ranking officers or officials, not Poland. Why? It's because Poland planned to take advantage of its geographical locations to boost its role when it comes down to trade between Europe and China. Yeah, you heard me. It's because of the trade that's going to be between those two countries. And this is why the idea of Poland thinking in terms, no, we're going to have to think about what's in it for us. Of course, the ongoing tension right now made the matter even worse, but Poland saying, no, the US, even though you're an ally, we're not gonna sort of sever our ties with China just because you said so. So that's an indication that tells you where things are moving. There is another aspect to all this, where I will provide you the analysis about how I see things moving forward. And this one also has to do exactly with what I disclosed in this book here. It's called the Dynamics of Russia's Geopolitics, Remaking the Global Order. So here's the thing. And let's just talk openly and honestly and frankly and all that stuff. Russia's military capabilities, where they're going to be, let's say 5 years from today, a decade from today, because the West is going to find it very, very challenging to anticipate where the next conflict will emerge, So, because the wrong decision or the right decision that is made too late could have dire consequences. For instance, hypothetically, and to tie this to what we're talking about the topic, let's say hypothetically, if the United States decide to have a permanent base in Poland, which is not going to happen, by the way, we're just saying hypothetically. This is the analysis part where you run scenarios. What if? Hypothetically, the US will have a presence in Poland. I am certain, based on my understanding, based on my academic background, based on my military background, and based on my understanding of the geopolitical landscape as to what might happen. So if the US will move forward with this scenario by having a military installation in Poland, I am certain Washington action will trigger a swift response from Russia. So, because we also what happened with Crimea, right? And also because the outcome of Crimea was also the cause for what the US insistence on pushing Ukraine towards democracy. So the case in Poland will be even more problematic, hypothetically, if this to happen. And why is it? Because, as I always say, guys, I'm a student of history. I tend to use history as a guide to help me navigate, especially when it comes down to geopolitical matters. So what I'm reminded here of, I am reminded of what the former US Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, suggested in his 1994 book. It's called The Diplomacy back then. So he argued of the inevitability of a new multipolar era, which is exactly what we are going through right now. You're not gonna see or hear the word coming out of the mouth in the West, because that's not a word or a term they want to use. Multipolar system. Remember that one. So, and to support that argument, look no further than the rise of China, for example, which is on a steady march. That has been since the end of the 90s. Because here's the reality, which once again, the West does not want to accept or admit to. About a quarter century ago, 25 years ago or so, China prospects for becoming a serious rival to Washington were not there. They were unclear. Now, today, the U.S. and China rivalry is a foregone conclusion. This is why you are witnessing what you are witnessing. This is why you're seeing the ongoing tensions in Southeast Asia, for example, with Taiwan, the Hong Kong issues, the Kazakhstan, and so forth, And this is where, and remember, this one was talked about way back by Henry Kissinger. So to go back to the point of Poland, so the U.S. potential military buildup in Poland, I am certain Russia has already considered its options. And one of those options, and you know what it is to establish a military presence, Russia that is, in Belarus, because it's next door neighbor. So hypothetically, if I were to advise the Polish government, I should remind them that Russia is willing to engage militarily against NATO. Which means what? If you are to break it down, that means exposing Poland as the first casualty to a wave of destruction at the hand of the Russians. What do you expect? So I do not anticipate this scenario, but I also operate on the assumption, what if? So, but for the sake of argument, if NATO uses its military against Russia, given the ongoing tensions that exist right now in Ukraine, or NATO is going to justify, well, we need to defend Poland, that victory, even if there is victory, that victory will be short-lived. And speaking of Ukraine, by the way, there's a survey that just came out yesterday, but there is one that was few years ago, when a survey was conducted here in the US, asking some participants, do you know where Ukraine is? 84% had no clue where Ukraine is. And the recent survey that was just released recently, vast majority of Americans oppose any US military action in Ukraine. Like as I said last time, what are our interests in Ukraine? Why all of a sudden this tiny country became the obsession of the superpower? What are those hypes for? Is it just to support for specific interest groups? I'll let you figure that out, and you know the answer for that. So because here's the thing, in the case we go back to Poland, in the case of this short-lived victory, because why is going to be short-lived? It's because Russia will subsequently use its tactical weapons, the nukes, that is, and what it's going to do, they will obliterate Poland and anything that stands in the way, because it's a fact, it's a reality. That's why I always say, be careful when you corner the bear. I'm not saying we should be scared of Russia. That is not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is we are encroaching even closer to Russia's doorstep. What do we expect? So but here's the thing. We should not get this emotional about all this, but rather remain objective. when presenting pragmatic and realistic big picture about the current geopolitical reality on the ground. This is where my background comes in. Is because understanding these dynamics, I have to present it in a way that all of us, an average, whatever, everybody can understand. Something the policymakers in the West, they think of themselves as the heavy hitters of foreign policy, and yet they have no clue when it comes down to something like this. So this fomenting of hatred against Russia, or even the Russians inside, for example, Georgia or Ukraine or Poland or the Baltic states. When you consider ever this NATO's increasing militarized perimeter around much of Russia, it has reached a dangerous level. It's because when it comes down to Ukraine, which some of us Americans do not know the reality of it, that it was the US that helped to overthrow the government in Ukraine back then, plunging the country into a near war with Russia. And we all know what happened in Georgia's case when Georgia was pushed. Oh, you stand up to the Russians and so forth. I mean, at that time, Mikhail Saakashvili had no clue, didn't understand. He was thinking that, I am going to challenge the Russians, stood there, and the first time a shot was fired, NATO said, well, sorry, didn't expect it. Because he was clueless. Saakashvili, that is. And I'll say it out loud. I'll give him the proper respect. The President Saakashvili back then was clueless. He didn't understand that the West or NATO is not going to risk a war with the nuclear Russia. And it's almost the scenario is repeating itself today with this Ukraine fiasco. And this is where I wanted to talk about Poland today, in case, because, if it were the same scenario that the United States militarized Poland, it's going to render the Baltic region in an entire region as the new Cold War front. Could it be that's what the objective? Because all this points to a dangerous war on the horizon. And it pains me to see this picture of, for example, a soldier. I was a former one. But it pains me to know this. Think of it this way, guys. Just imagine this. A soldier who goes to war, to defend his country, and experiences a trauma from the horror of death and destruction that he or she witnessed. Then, when he or she comes back home, he or she tries to get help. And suddenly, he or she snaps. Killing his wife, killing the children, killing whatever. So my point is, we should not be surprised if Russia snaps, because we are getting closer to a dangerous area where it's going to be very, very scary as to what the outcome could be. And this is where I see the pragmatism and the logical thinking of the Polish president. And here is one thing just happened yesterday within this realm of this. The new Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, turned down an invitation from President Biden to meet, to talk about Ukraine. I did mention this to you guys last time, that there is a conversation inside Europe that the media is not reporting on. And the conversation inside suggests that we can't be following blindly. Because here is the thing, and I do know this for a fact. If there is to be a war, military conflict at any level, small or large, guess who's going to be burned first? It's not the US, it's Europe. So, by this decision of the German Chancellor yesterday, it's sending a message to Americans like, hey, you can't drag us into this. Poland is seeing this. Poland looking at it long term also, looking at it from an economic perspective. Why? Because of the Belt and Road Initiative that Poland wants to play a role into it. Because that particular project is moving forward, despite what you hear. As a matter of fact, I just find out the day before that even Morocco has signed an agreement with China regarding the BRI. And Morocco is geographically or strategically located that can serve between Europe and Africa. So it will be perfect, a win-win situation in this. So this is why the Polish president, he's thinking of the welfare of his nation. And I'm talking from experience here. I've been in Poland many times. So, but also it's an indication that these ongoing tensions, because this, and if I may use the term, fabricated crisis regarding Ukraine. Yeah. So that is where I see why Poland made that decision publicly. As I said last time, the four other, Japan, Australia, and Canada, UK, well, they just have to follow orders. We all know the situation with Australia. It's becoming, we can use the term here because the algorithm will pick it up, but you all know. Even New Zealand now, I am starting to question, a policy just changed in the last month or so. All of a sudden, was the PM there, Ardern, was she pressured all of a sudden to snap in the opposite direction? Sort of like those leaders couldn't take stand anymore. So what kind of leadership is that? If you are a leader only in good time, what happened to the bad time? Like what the Polish president just did right now. He's an ally of the US. But it's like, no, I am not going to sever my ties with China. And I am not going to boycott attending the Olympics. Because the welfare of my nation comes first. And is the right thing to do. If you are a leader, you don't think about yourself anymore. You think about the people who voted you in. Because that becomes your responsibility. And if you can't handle it, then don't run for office in the first place. Because we are witnessing that here in our own country, how corrupted the politicians have become. They have been for a while. So the average citizen here is asking the question, what is democracy doing for me? This is my rationale, my thinking, my logical arguments for why I believe the Polish president decided to move into this direction. But also because the fear of hypothetically should a conflict erupt between the US and Russia, which I do not foresee because it won't be pretty. Despite what you hear, the bravado coming out of Washington and NATO and all that, it's just to keep the machine, as we always say, feed the beast, the MIC. But there is a danger. We're reaching a dangerous level that could be out of control. No one will be able to control it. And that's where it puts, and that's exactly what I talked about, and I'll just let you know briefly here. That's exactly what I talked on Locals about the naval exercises of Russia, China, Iran, and what it means from a strategic perspective. And how that's going to be now a counterbalance to any unilateralism from any entity that think like NATO in this case. Because if you combine the three, Iran, Russia, and China military capabilities, I don't think so NATO will stand a chance. Because here's the reality, guys, which most of us do not hear much. The United States cannot fight two wars simultaneously. We can't do it. The only way to do it, you all know what I mean by that. There is one way of doing it, but that will be the end for everybody. But as far as fighting two wars, two fronts simultaneously, we can't, and we won't be able to. So I am right now working on one particular case that I need to, not a case rather, but a topic is the movement of 3 aircraft carriers, US aircraft carriers towards Asia. So I'm going to be reaching out to some folks that I know, to find out the exact information before I'll come on the air and share it with you. So this is what I wanted to, let me see the time here. This is what I wanted to share with you. If you get a chance, either those 2 or 3 books, this one here, The Volatile State of Iran on the Nuclear Age, this one here, The Dynamics of Russia's Geopolitics, and this one here, Beneath the Veil, The Fall of the House of Saud. And there are some other books that I wrote. One of them is called The Ambiguous of U.S. Foreign Policy and so on. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because I truly address in detail the whole geopolitical landscape for you to have truly a grasp of why things are moving the way they are moving and to what end. And I did present some scenarios in the books as to if it goes this way, what can we expect? And if it goes this way, what can we expect? So if you get a chance to read them, if you happen to be here in the US, which will be great, I'll be happy to autograph it for you. So, but anyway, I'm not gonna stay here ramble because I don't do that. If I have something of substance to share with you, I'll share it. When I'm done talking, I'm done talking because I don't believe in just being here and rambling for no reason. So anyway, just to recap the entire thing here about why Poland made the decision to go forward and confirm its attendance for the Olympics is because they looked at it from 2 aspects. One of them is strategic, the other one is economic, especially when it comes down to China, as China is expanding its BRI, which is going to be in Europe. We all know this. Even European countries are not cutting ties with China just because there are tensions with the US. That they're going to have to think in terms of their welfare. There could be also the other question that you need to ask yourself. Could it be also that Europeans are coming to the realization that it is just a matter of time before the US dollar, is replaced as a global currency? Now that is going to be a big problem here in America because we can turn to become poor overnight. That's how quick it will happen. So it just those are realities, those are facts that I wanted to share with you. So once again, for those who might be your first time here, please subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you again here. And for our regular viewers, I can't thank you enough, guys, for your support on behalf of the entire team. Usually, we have decided among all of us, because it's a team decision, not just one person here. So all of us, when it comes down to brief analysis like this, I will be doing it by myself. It's easier. I can move on quickly on those topics, and it's my academic and professional background. So I happen to know what I'm talking about. So yes, I do see those comments about you have no idea what you're talking about, or whatever. What am I to? They're free to express themselves, say whatever. But for those who disagree with me, I respect your opinion. Of course, I'll be happy to engage in a dialogue with you to see where those points, where those differences are, and I welcome that. Because that's how we grow intellectually. I'm still learning, guys, and I don't believe in this notion that you just have, because you have a PhD, that means your learning has ended. No, I'm still learning, and I truly, and I say it from the bottom of my heart, that I'm learning from you. The questions you guys put on the comments or when we do the Q&As. Incredible, intelligent, poignant questions that gives me a pause to think, oh, I didn't think of it that way. And here it is. One of you will ask that question. I truly, truly welcome that. And I truly appreciate it. Because I figured, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep answering to nonsense stuff? Or truly you want to engage in a meaningful conversation? Because what is the purpose of it all? It's just to inform, as we always say, inform everybody, including us. It's because we want to move the entire world into a peaceful coexistence. Because that is what I'm coming to realize my existence here. Am I going to be here forever? No, and I don't want to. But whatever time I am allowed on this earth here, I'd rather use the knowledge that I gained or acquired over the years and share it with you all. Because that is the right thing to do. I always say, what do you do with knowledge if you have it? Sit on it? What's the point? It becomes useless. Well, because the question becomes is, what have you done for humanity? You don't have to be a billionaire to do things. A simple idea that can contribute to move humanity forward is better than nothing. It's just some of us get wrapped up into this, ego, me, this and that, which is nothing but a facade. If we only can start look at each other as humans, no more, no less. Put religion aside, put political orientation aside, put ethnicity aside, put the way you look, blue eyes, dark eyes, blonde hair, dark hair, whatever, and look at the person just as a human being. At least that's what helped me when I used to travel around the world back in the day when I was working in Washington. I've been in some dark places, very dark places. Not even the media can go there. And you know what? People were so wonderful. They were so kind. They looked at me as a human being, no more, no less. And I did the same. Some I have sat down on the floor with them, eating with my bare hands, because that's the culture, that's the tradition. And as I always say, just because they live in a village or they live in a hut, they don't have a running water, whatever, makes them less than me. No. Won't allow it. And I usually frown upon people who think that way. So, in any event, I'm going to stop rambling here. So, anyway, I hope you guys get an idea. I'm going to be detailing this more in locals.com. Check it out when you get a chance. It's because the platform, you know how it is. So, but I will be doing this brief analysis for you guys just to give you an idea so you can stay up to date as to what's going on. And once again, remember to subscribe if you have not done so. And as always, guys, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.